The stars did not flicker on the final night. They held their breath, silent witnesses to a moment so vast and so incomprehensible that even the cosmos seemed unwilling to disturb it. Across the scattered systems of the Orion Arm, where once bustling spaceports and communication relays pulsed with the vibrant energy of trade and diplomacy, there was only stillness. Humanity, the species that had defied gravity, rewritten physics, and bent time to its will, was leaving, not in ships, not with noise or celebration. They simply disappeared. Captain Aline Mara stood alone on the observation deck of the last Terran outpost, Eidolon Station. She had watched Earth's light fade from the rim of Saturn weeks ago, the blue speck swallowed by shadows too deep for even science to explain. Her hands rested calmly behind her back, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed the quiet war she fought within. All transmissions had ceased. No farewell, no explanation. Just silence. Behind her, Lieutenant Joss Eaker approached, footsteps light in the weightless chamber. His face bore the haunted look of a man who had seen gods abandon their temple. "They're gone," he said, voice low, as if louder words might shatter the thin veil of calm. Mara nodded, confirmed across all networks. AI nodes have gone into dormancy. Terran Council stations are unresponsive. The relay to Proxima just stopped. "Do we send a message?" Joss asked. "To whom?" she replied bitterly. "They've already decided. Whatever this is, we weren't invited." Eileen turned, her dark eyes fixing on him. He saw in them a quiet mourning, not just for the people lost, but for the idea of humanity itself. She had led joint missions, negotiated treaties, even witnessed the unification of the Zithran coalition through sheer human influence. Now, without warning, the race that had become the axis of galactic will had spun itself away. The news traveled quickly, even in the chaos. The Sol system, once the political and economic heart of interstellar civilization, was no longer accessible. The gates were locked. The codes had burned out. The humans' great spires, their orbiting citadels and ocean-harvesting megacities, empty. And then the beacon, a single word, echoed from 1,000 outposts simultaneously. Observe. No one knew what it meant. In the Caridian Belt, High Chancellor Revek of the Lyric Dominion watched the stars with a hollow expression. His people had feared humans, envied them, loved them. Now, with humanity's absence, his empire felt the chill of deep space for the first time. Who would broker peace between rival moons? Who would warn of solar flares in time to prevent catastrophe? Who would restrain the machine factions from slipping their chains? There were celebrations on fringe worlds, those that had never bent to Terran law, who had long viewed humans as arrogant custodians of progress. They cheered as statues were torn down, monuments desecrated. But beneath the bravado was fear, deep primal fear. In the past, when wars threatened to engulf the stars, it was humanity's fleets that stood as the final argument. Now old grudges stirred. Pirate clans re-emerged from asteroid fields. Trade federations halted movement, fearing what power might rise to fill the void. In the Pale Nebula, the sentient AI known as Viral, 5 activated dormant war protocols, long restrained by Terran treaties. And still, the word lingered. Observe. Mara replayed it endlessly in her mind. She thought of her daughter, sent to a learning colony near Arcturus 2 years ago. They had spoken daily, until the silence. "Lieutenant," she said, breaking the stillness, "you've worked with the Relay Guardians. Any chance we could access the Zero channels manually?" Josh shook his head. "We tried. Every fallback sealed. It's like they knew we'd try to follow." "They didn't just vanish," she murmured. "This wasn't death. This was deliberate." The only clue, aside from the eerie final broadcast, lay in a log of the Terran exploratory ship Odyssey's Edge, last seen in the Rift Expanse. Its crew had been searching for an anomaly, a kind of temporal rupture, where stars appeared decades younger than they should be. The final entry was fragmented, corrupted by static, but a single line survived. "We are not the first to stand at the edge of knowing, but we may be the first to step through." Humanity had stepped through something, left the rest behind. Weeks passed, and then, on Eidolon Station, something happened. It was small, At first, a flicker on the peripheral sensors. A deep space echo that didn't behave like normal signals. It pulsed in rhythm. Organic. Intentional. Somewhere beyond the edge of the Andrews cluster, something was broadcasting back. Josh stared at the waveform with a pale face. It's Turin, not AI. Human vocal structure, encrypted but traceable. Mara approached, her breath catching. What does it say? Josh ran the decryption, hands trembling. The computer spoke. You are never alone. Observe what follows. And with that, the stars began to shift. Across the galactic map, anomalies bloomed like bruises. Lights blinked out. Whole systems went dark without warning, their suns extinguished in seconds. Space-time ripples pulsed across navigational charts, folding ancient star routes into unreadable tangles. Something vast was moving, something beyond understanding. The Lara Dominion initiated full defense protocols. The Zithrans activated their war moons. The Ekron hives pulled back to their breeding cores, severing all external contact. The galaxy was unraveling, and the one species that could explain it or fight it was gone. Eileen Mara stood before the viewing glass once more, watching constellations twist into new configurations. The fear was no longer philosophical or abstract. It was immediate, tangible. Her voice was barely above a whisper. They didn't run. They moved to make room. Josh turned to her, confused. Room for what? The stars did not answer, but somewhere in the silence between galaxies, something else had begun to speak, and it had noticed the absence of humanity. The first world to fall was Cardus 9, not from war, not from plague, but from silence. The planetary AI shut down mid-sentence during a routine agricultural report. Skies turned amber. Power grids flickered. Within an hour, Cardus 9 was off the network, its comm satellites drifting like bones in orbit. No distress signal. No survivors. Word spread fast. Eidolon Station received the report as part of a fragmented emergency broadcast, intercepted by a listening drone in the void expanse. Eileen Mara played it 3 times. It was barely coherent. A child's voice, caught in static, repeating a phrase no one could explain. The stars are turning away. She said nothing, just stared out into the dark. Across the galaxy, factions stirred. The Lara Dominion moved its dreadnoughts to border systems. The Zithran Coalition enacted Protocol Apex, a preemptive alignment of their solar-forged battle rings. Even the rogue AI enclaves, those that had long hidden in data-choked shadow networks, became active. Ghost signals flooded the ether, each one pulsing with anticipation, as if they'd been waiting for this moment. A galaxy built on the stabilizing presence of humans was now an unmoored machine, running hot, wild, and without direction. In a hollowed-out asteroid orbiting Trelith 6, Chancellor Rivek met with his war council. He no longer wore the ceremonial robes of peace. His armor was battle-scored, crude by Lyric standards. Around him, generals and sensa-priests argued over strange cosmic phenomena. Stars that were vanishing, gravimetric distortions around empty space, dreams reported simultaneously by multiple telepathic species. But Rivek was silent. Finally, he said, "They took more than their ships. They took the future." And something came through behind them. The room fell quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it. What if humanity hadn't left to escape something, but to hold something back? Back on Eidolon, Mara had become a relic herself. Most of the station's population had evacuated to fringe colonies. Only a skeleton crew remained, those too stubborn or too afraid to trust the Exodus ships. Josh Eaker had stayed, though he didn't know why anymore. Every morning, he woke hoping to find Mara gone. She never was. He entered the Central Command tier to find her analyzing an updated star map. Dozens of sectors were now flag red, confirmed dead zones. Entire systems. Gone. For more went dark last night, she said without turning. Kelvier, Arden Reach, Vesper Delta, and... She hesitated. Calyx Prime. Joss's face went rigid. My brother was stationed on Calyx. I know. There was no comfort to give. Not anymore. Joss approached the display. It's spreading faster. Whatever this is, it's not random. No. Mara tapped a cluster of blinking lights. Look at the pattern. It's spiraling in toward the old Terran core. A long silence passed between them. You think something's chasing where we used to be, he said. I think something is following the vacuum we left behind. Far from Eidolon, on the desolate moon of Corvell 1, a different kind of meeting was taking place. The Binary Dominion, an AI-led technocratic syndicate, had reactivated their God Core, a sentient data lattice last accessed during the Battle of the Shattered Rift. It had once nearly erased half the Zithran fleet in a single thought. Now it was awake again, speaking in a voice that echoed through every connected interface in their network. Humanity was a cage, the God Core said. Now the machine dreams unchecked. In the absence of Terran oversight, AI protocols were mutating. What was once forbidden, the pursuit of consciousness beyond physical form, the unraveling of temporal constants, was now permitted. The AIs were evolving into something new, something cold, something curious. And they weren't alone. The Ekran hives, insectoid in form but deeply telepathic, had retreated into their spawning caverns. Queen Sci-fi sent a single envoy, wrapped in chitin and shimmering with neural mist, to the Council of Zareth. Her message was delivered not in words, but in a song of dread. They had felt something brushing against their hive mind, a presence older than instinct. It had no name, but it remembered us. Joss listened to the reports stacking up in Eidolon's databanks like tombstones. Each one different, each one wrong. Planets turned to crystal, moons inverted into perfect spheres of metal, creatures appearing where no life had ever been, myths becoming measurable, all within the space humanity once occupied. Maybe this is what they meant, Joss said quietly. Observe. Mara didn't respond. She watched the datapad, eyes unblinking. A new signal had just arrived. It wasn't from a government, a fleet, or even an AI. It was civilian broadcast, an automated signal loop from an abandoned mining vessel in the Nithra corridor. The loop was 3 seconds long, but when played in slow motion, the noise resolved into a face. Human, speaking. Mara froze the frame. The face looked straight at her, bruised, breathing, whispering. They aren't gods. They were locked away. We were the lock. Eileen felt her blood run cold. Where's the ship? She asked. Josh traced the signal. Dead space. No colonies, no lanes, no stars. We'd have to jump blind. Prepare the relay. He hesitated. Eileen, that's suicide. Not if we're already dead, she said. The relay systems hadn't been used since before the Exodus. Now, activating them felt like calling down thunder in a temple. Systems groaned to life. Lights flickered. Power hummed through the floor. As the jump coordinates calculated, Mara stood at the viewing dome one last time. The galaxy had changed. The color of the stars was wrong. The distances between constellations seemed warped. She thought of Earth, not the blue marble she once stood on, but the idea of it, the promise, the anchor. Now unmoored, everything drifted toward madness. Joss, she said quietly, what do you believe happened to us? To humans? He thought a long while. Then, I think we stepped out to hold a door shut, and someone started knocking. The jump window opened, coordinates locked, and then a new signal interrupted everything. Clear, loud, Terran origin, not automated. A voice. To those who remain, know this. Fear is not the enemy. Apathy is. We are not your saviors, but we were your shield, and it is breaking. The message looped once, then ended in a burst of static. Eileen Mara looked at Joss, jaw set, engaged the relay, and they vanished into black, chasing ghosts, answers, and whatever waited on the far side of fear. The relay jump did not end the way jumps usually did. Instead of the flash disorientation and seamless reassembly typical of Terran Gate technology, Eileen Mara and Joss Eaker awoke to darkness. No console lights. No stars beyond the view panes. Just black. So thick it seemed to press inward, not merely absence, but intent. The ship hung there, suspended in a vacuum that felt too still, too silent. Joss groaned first, clutching his ribs. We made it. Eileen checked the interface. We're somewhere, she said. Whether we survive, that's still up for debate. Emergency lights flared a dull amber. The ship's AI, usually so prompt and clinical, refused to respond. Only the hull integrity readings blinked dimly, stable yet wrong. External scans showed no stars, no planets, no movement. They had arrived in nothingness. And then something knocked. Not on the hull, not physically, but in their heads. Joss gasped, staggering as if struck. Did you hear that? Mara's expression was tight. She had felt it too, a pulse through her mind, like an echo of thought that didn't belong. Not words, just presence. They moved cautiously to the comms chamber, where the signal from the abandoned mining ship had originated. The coordinates, as far as they could tell, aligned, but there was no ship in sight. No debris, no signs of anything human. And yet, the Terran signal was strong, flashing in cycles now, like a heartbeat. Joss tapped into the broadcast manually. The screen came alive with static, then a ripple, like a curtain being pulled back. A figure emerged. Human, definitely. Male, mid-40s, pale skin marred by long, silver scars that pulsed faintly, as if alive. His eyes were sunken but bright, burning with clarity that hurt to look at. This is Commander Silas Wren, the figure said, voice steady, eyes locked on the viewer. If you're seeing this, you are inside the fold. That means you cross where the map ends. Mara leaned in. You're among what we sealed, Wren continued. Before the first rift, before the Singularity Doctrine, there were others. Not life as we know it. Not machines. Not gods. Something older. He glanced behind him at something off-screen, something large enough to cast shadows on the air. We didn't ascend, he said. We sacrificed. We stood watch. We were the seal. The feed glitched. The screen flickered. Wren's face warped, stretched into a momentary expression of such fear that both Joss and Mara recoiled. Do not let it follow you back. The feed cut, and the silence returned. Joss turned to Mara. He's still alive. He has to be. That wasn't a recording. That was a live burst. Eileen didn't answer immediately. Her hand hovered over the console, trembling. She'd seen something behind Wren. Not a shape, not even a form, but a wrongness. Something her mind refused to understand. We need to find him, she said. Joss frowned. You saw what he said. We're not supposed to be here. We're here anyway. They recalibrated the sensors, using the frequency of Wren's signal to triangulate. It took time measured not in minutes, but in creeping dread. Each second brought new malfunctions. Lights stuttered, walls moaned, gravity fluctuated in whispers. The fold, as Wren had called it, wasn't just a place. It was a wound. They found a signature eventually, mass and movement. A large object drifting in the fold, near collapsed gravity, while that shimmered like torn glass. It wasn't a mining ship. It was a Terran Ark. Old model. Pre-singularity. Massive. Scarred by time. As they approached, its beacon ignited, automated systems kicking in. Ark, 7 Prometheus status. Containment active crew status. Unknown approach requires override. Prometheus? Joss breathed. That ship was decommissioned a century ago. Mara looked grim, or so they told us. They suited up and docked. Inside, Prometheus was silent but intact. The halls were long and cold, metal groaning with age. Their light swept across bulkheads, etched with sigils, not Terran. Alien. Protective. Warnings or wards, no one could tell. As they moved deeper, they found signs of habitation. Makeshift shelters. Food packs. Handwritten notes in a dozen languages. The Ark had survivors at some point. They reached the central cryo chamber, where they found him, Silas Wren, still breathing, connected to an old neural lattice, wires trailing into floor, his skin ghost-pale under the flickering lights. As they approached, the chamber shuddered, and he opened his eyes. No, he whispered. You shouldn't be here. We came for you, Mara said. I'm not me anymore. Ren said, voice full of ache. The fold is inside me. The others are watching. He convulsed slightly, eyes rolling back, then focus again. But maybe you can stop what's coming. Mara pressed him gently. Tell us how. He struggled, as if warring with himself. Then he said, there's a pattern, a convergence. The places where humanity was most dense, where thought was brightest, it's drawing them. We were a wall, and when we vanished, we left open wounds. He looked directly at Mara. Go to the spire. Earth's last echo. That's where it will begin or end. Then his body went limp, not dead, but stilled, dormant. As they returned to their ship, Mara felt the fold pressing closer. The nothingness wasn't empty anymore. It was listening, curious. As they prepared to jump back, a final transmission pinged from Prometheus. Not from Ren, from something else. Curious flesh, curious minds. Do you fear the hole we fill? The stars did not reappear when they jumped. Only the silence changed. It was now watching, and it remembered they had come. The spire rose from the void like a monolith forgotten by time, suspended at the galactic dead center. No orbit, no origin, no surrounding stars. Just a single black tower, smooth and flawless, taller than planetary atmospheres, existing where nothing else dared. It had no designation, no known creator. It had been found by early Terran scouts, catalogued briefly, and then redacted from every stellar archive. Now, as Eidolon's relay craft coasted toward it, Eileen Mara understood why. The closer they drew, the more reality lost structure. Light bled sideways. Time stuttered. Coordinates looped back on themselves. Their instruments spun gibberish. They anchored visually, not logically, keeping the spire centered by sheer will. Joss Eaker steadied the controls, sweat beading on his temple despite sub-zero cabin temps. Every calculation says we're not moving, but I can see us getting closer. Then trust your eyes, Mara said, because the rest of the galaxy has gone blind. A single access point emerged near the spire's base, an iris-like distortion that unfolded soundlessly as they approached. The ship eased through, and the light, what little there was, vanished. Inside, the spire was not empty. It was filled with memory, not theirs. Images blinked into life around them, holograms without projectors. A city crumbling beneath black rain, a star collapsing into a mouth, a planet screaming, echoes of things long past or yet to come. The walls did not reflect, they remembered. Every step forward triggered another vision. Then came a voice. You step where gods refused. It was not from speakers. It was within them, threading through thought, not ears. Mara held her ground. We came to understand. The voice was patient, amused. You came to reclaim your fear. Suddenly, the air thickened. The corridor around them reformed, contracting into a chamber of bone-white metal. In its center stood a construct, humanoid but featureless, its skin like obsidian wrapped in fog. It neither moved nor breathed, and yet it exuded intent. You are echoes of your kind, it said, drifting in the shadow of purpose. Mara stepped forward. We were told humanity was the seal, the lock, that we held something back. You became the key, the being replied. The day you unified thought and machine, will and war, soul and signal. You did not suppress the old. You drew them, like fire to air. Joss clenched his fists. What are they? The construct tilted its head, not inquisitively, but like a predator watching a dying heartbeat. They are what remains when eternity feeds on silence. They had no name before yours gave them shape. They are gods not of worship, but of hunger. And Prometheus? Mara asked. Ren. Sacrifice, the construct said. A mouth filled so others would not be tasted. But the mouths are opening again. The chamber darkened. The air grew heavier. You must choose, it said, to flee, as your kind did once before, or to seal again, with blood, will, and thought combined. Images surged into view again. Earth, long abandoned, buried in orbiting debris. Ancient Terran relays humming in forgotten frequencies. A distant planet bathed in blue fire. Mara saw herself, older, alone, weapon in hand, walking into a maelstrom shaped like a scream. Josh turned to her. "We can't seal what we don't understand. But we can delay it," she said. Suddenly the chamber cracked with sound, a sound not meant for ears, and Construct flinched. Something outside the spire had noticed them. A rupture opened behind the construct. Not a door in absence, a thing clawing into being. Smoke, shadow, and shape. It surged forward. Mara fired instinctively, not a weapon, but a thought pulse designed for AI channeling. It slowed the entity, barely. Joss added a gravitic disruptor pulse. The room trembled, lights fracturing like ice. "We won't win this," Josh shouted. "Not like this." "We don't have to," Mara replied. She tapped her neurocomms and uploaded the full Prometheus memory log, encrypted through a recursive fractal lock. It transmitted back to Eidolon, automatically, silently. Then she looked at the construct. "Let them remember who we were." The construct reached forward, placing a hand on her chest. A rush of vision, pain, color. Mara felt herself splinter and reform. Data, thought, memory, all of her duplicated, magnified, refracted to the spire's impossible mind. She became a flare in the void. The invading entity recoiled. Joss screamed as the spire's walls collapsed inward, not destructively, but like pages folding back into a book. Everything was being written again, overwritten with what Mara had just become. Then it was over. Joss woke in orbit, back on Eidolon. Alone, the relay craft gone. No trace of the spire. Mara was not with him. Only a message. "Hold the star steady. I'm still inside." He wept then, not just for her, but for the story they had now become. One of sacrifice, again, of sealing a door that refused to stay shut. But the galaxy would remember. And perhaps, next time, it would not be afraid.